I want some buds. Hello and welcome, or welcome back as the case may be. We've talked for a while about, uh, a low and slow cook on the Expert Grill Heavy Duty. Uh, we showed kind of a quick cook, obviously, in the initial review that we did, as well as kind of a medium cook with a pork tenderloin. Today, we're going to go with a longer, low and slow cook of pork butt. Most of you, of course, will probably hear pork butt and think pulled pork, and that's exactly what we'll be doing here. It's a staple of a cookout. Summer holidays are all coming up, and if you're looking into this grill and trying to decide, hey, should I get this? Will it work for an actual barbecue versus just hamburgers and hot dogs? Well, that's what we're going to prove today. Now, I've done lengthier cooks on this before, haven't filmed them all, really have put it through its paces, but I've not done a pork butt. And so this will be a first. Without any further ado, we'll show you how we got the fire started and the pork butt prepped. We have here our pork butt. It says butt roast here. You'll see pork shoulder. You'll see butt. It's all the same thing. This is a pretty good size one, which, on the small Expert grill, we did a very small pork butt. Turned out great, but this is a bigger one. It's going to be a longer cook, and we're going to see how it goes. This is bone in, and that's a good thing. You get more flavor out of that. Now, some people will tell you you need to wipe this off or whatever, pat it down, but we're going to kind of slather it in some mustard anyway, so I don't care. We're going to cut off this little piece here because it's just kind of sticking out. Really, you want to make sure any of these pieces that are kind of sticking out that will get too crispy, that we take care of those, but otherwise looks pretty good. I don't do a lot of trim on a pork butt. I mean, the fat's gonna melt down. It's gonna be fantastic. Start with our mustard. Any regular yellow mustard that you happen to have lying around. As you might imagine, I kind of go through this stuff by the gross. I don't use mustard on every piece of pork that I cook, maybe not even every pork butt, depending kind of on how it looks and that sort of thing. It does, in general, help the rub to adhere to it. Speaking of the rub, so we've got it right here. All this is brown sugar, a little bit of black pepper, a fair amount of seasoned salt, and some garlic and onion powder. As far as the volumes of each, it's about a half a cup of brown sugar and then a couple teaspoons each of the black pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. The salt, that's kind of to taste, right? But I end up usually doing kind of a 2-to-1 salt to the other ingredients. And they call it a rub because, well, we rub it in. I am making a bit of a mess out here because I've decided to do the whole prep outside. We have other things going on inside. Didn't have the space. So it's just like old times. Last year when I was doing these videos, I was doing everything outside just because I didn't have room. Completely covering the sides as well. This is going to tack up just beautifully. We'll flip it over. Notice we got a big fat cap here. We are going to go ahead and hit this with some rub as well. Make it very uniform. A lot of this will probably wash off as the fat melts. That's fine. Better to have it. And beyond just the flavor and stuff for the rub, the finished product looks real nice when you cover it like this. Doesn't matter to some people, does to others. So there we go. Our finished pork butt. And our temperature right now is still pretty high on this thermostat up here, but we're going to be off to the side and we're going to continue to try and bring that down. So let's get this thrown on. A few quick things to note. Our cooking rack in here is at its lowest position. We do not want direct heat, so we'll keep it as low as possible. All the coals are over on the right hand side. We will be putting our pork butt on the left. Also note that all these dampers are pretty well, not entirely closed, but I mean they're pretty slim, right? We have a little more air intake down here. Matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and close that off a little bit because we don't want a lot of airflow. We don't want our coals to burn any quicker than they already will. By doing this and controlling it on both sides, we should make sure that we've got a lengthy fire for our cook. Also note that none of this is rust or anything. It's literally dust from all the wind here lately that has just stuck to it. And I tried to wipe it off, and well, now it looks like that. But no impact, no rust, nothing like that. Just a little dirty. We see here we got our coal bed, and we've got that log over there, which is not burning, just smoking, which is what we want. And that's all there is to it here. I have taken out this top grate just because we don't have room to do anything with it. But we're on. We're going to have to probably continue to feed these coals, and that's fine. But now we're going to let it smoke. So a few quick notes on using a chimney to start a fire. We've said over and over and over again on this channel, do not use lighter fluid. Don't use the light the bag, any of that kind of stuff for multiple reasons. The light the bag thing, I mean, you don't get to choose how much charcoal you're using. So to me, that's an automatic disqualifier. For the lighter fluid, I don't know that it actually affects taste or anything like that, but it is more dangerous. And further, it's another consumable you have to continue to purchase. You're going to run out of lighter fluid, you're going to need more, etc., etc. You can buy just a bag of charcoal. We're using a relatively cheap lump charcoal today, or you can use briquettes, and you simply, put them in the chimney, fill it up, pretty much to the top, and then just take some of the paper. I use the paper from the charcoal bag itself, wad it up, throw it under there, light it, and let it go. The flames will come up, it'll move fire up through the chimney, and they'll catch. And then when they're all more or less kind of ashed over on the top, you just dump it into your firebox. Easy. Couldn't be easier. A chimney costs, I don't know, 10, 15 bucks. I highly recommend. Okay, we're an hour in. Gonna take a look at this. All right, we're getting some color on here, so we're getting some smoke. Still, I mean, very early in the process, right? So, wouldn't expect much beyond that. I am using wireless thermometer for this. which based on that, the internal temperature is about 250 degrees, which is exactly where we want it to be. Still smoking there. I've showed that you can feed in charcoal through the bottom deal here. I've since removed this second grate because, well, I'm not cooking anything on it anymore. And I'm going to add some more charcoal here. All right, we'll let it go. Well, we are about 2.5 hours in now. Internal temperature on the pork butt is about 111, I think, last I looked. And so cruising right along. You can see some smoke. Well, hopefully it comes through on the camera. You can see some smoke here. I ramped it up a little bit, so I kind of moved the wood a little further onto the fire or onto the hot coals, just to kind of bring the smoke level up, because it has been relatively low. And I wanted to make sure that, we were at least matching what I normally do on an offset or the gravity smoker or those sorts of things. But I mean, so far, so good. It's holding temperature very well. I did just open it, so temperatures come down a bit, but we've been sitting around 275 the whole time, which is great. So basically, if you kind of follow what I showed with the damper settings on this and just keep them, I mean, just real slim, just enough to where a bit of air is getting in there. I mean, it's holding temp great. It's cooking great. No complaints really at this point. So we'll continue to give it time. I suspect, will be another several hours potentially, or maybe another 2 hours, and we may be close. Now, if you've never cooked a pork butt before, there are a couple of temperatures to kind of pay attention to. If you were doing pulled pork, which is, I would say, the application for a pork butt, probably 90% of the time when people cook it, certainly when I cook it. I mean, catering events, things like that, pulled pork goes a long way, right? And the temperature on that is generally somewhere in the like 200 to 205 range. Um, the bigger indicator of doneness that I find in a bone-in pork butt is that the bone that's in there just kind of pulls out easily. And so that's what I would look for in this case as well. But, a good measure for somebody who hadn't done a lot of these, looking right around that 200-degree mark. The other preparation that I have done sometimes with a pork butt is more for like sliced pork, right? So if you want to do sandwiches or something like that, or even just portions on a plate, you can take your pork and slice it nice and thin, and have a juicy cut of meat. That temperature is usually 175, somewhere in there. Realistically, it kind of depends on your desired level of doneness. Now, pork butt is not something I would do medium rare. I will do that on a pork chop. Absolutely love it. Nice and juicy and just an awesome cut for that. But there's an awful lot of fat and connective tissue and stuff in a bigger chunk of meat like this. So that lower temp, not really suitable. But you can still get a pretty moist piece of meat anywhere from about 160, to 175 or somewhere in there. So kind of up to you if you're doing slice. But 200, 205, I usually say 203, right? For the pulled pork, and then you'll pull it and let it rest. But we're not there yet. We're gonna continue to give it some time. We are not going to wrap this unless the weather doesn't cooperate. Always a possibility. But so far it's just cloudy. And so we're just gonna let it push through and hopefully end up with a beautiful cut of meat. All right, another hour in. We're gonna take a look at stuff here. There's our coal bed, of course, building up ash, but there's still a fair amount of coals on here. We'll probably add some more in a minute. I have added another piece of wood. The pork butt, I mean, gosh, it looks beautiful. And now it feels like it's getting closer to done. Still got a little ways to go, I think, and probe kind of confirms that. I believe internal temperature right now is like 140 something. So still some time to go, but it's looking great. It's working great. So we'll check back soon. Well, another hour's gone by. We're in the 160 range, but we've got a bit of a problem. It's just now starting to rain, and it looks like it's actually going to end up being a completely massive rainstorm that's going to last for hours. So because of that, I'm still going to keep the cook going and whatnot, but I probably am not going to be able to do any more check-ins. So the next shot you see will probably be the finished product. But you know, we'll do kind of a summary and kind of talk about the process, highs and lows, and flavor and all that good stuff. So stick around because for me it's going to get wet. Well, still raining, but we got everything off, and I got soaked. My clothes are now changed. But this is what I meant when I was talking about the bone just coming out. I mean, it's clean, right? Nothing left on it. And here's just a chunk of the meat that would fit in this dish. But with this meat, you can really just at this point, you know, as long as you cooked it to the necessary temperature, you just start to tear it apart, and that's all there is to it, right? And so you tear this whole thing apart, get it all separated, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done here. Okay, so it's all pulled and cut up. Now what do you do with it? Well, you got a few different serving options. You could sauce it with whatever sauce you like. I prefer to make my own, but I mean, there's all sorts of sauces out there. And then serve it on a sandwich that way. You could, if you want to forego the sauce, you could just hit it with heavy barbecue seasoning, put it on a sandwich, serve it in tacos, serve it, you know, all sorts of different ways that way. Or you can just eat it like this. Thanks for joining us, checking back in on the Expert Grill Heavy Duty. This whole cook took about 7 hours, I want to say, but the end result is just, I mean, it's fantastic. This is awesome meat. Temperature control was really no problem at all. The weather was a lot harder to deal with, but it pulled through. Temperature didn't come down much. It worked exactly like it should. So nothing but good things to say yet again. This is an easy dish for you to do for a barbecue get-together on the Expert Grill. Just follow the steps that we showed you. Take it out at about 202, 203 degrees, something like that. Let it rest for a little while. Pull it apart and sauce, season, whatever you want to do. You got a lot of food for a lot of people. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time on Cold War Barbecue.